GotSome, welcome to the show. How are you today, sir?
I'm good. It's Monday morning and it's November and it's cold.
Yeah, you've got a hat on, man. I was just talking about that. Like, I put one up with Ben Hemsley this morning. We chatted last week, and I was just saying, like, there's something about those dark nights. Like, every year, I somehow forget that it's pitch black at 4 p.m. and every year, without fail, I'm like, is it like this every year? 4 o'clock.
Yeah. Do we even need to have daylight saving anymore? That's what I need to know. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you live in Scotland or something, I'm with you. But I live in Bristol. Do we need to have daylight saving? Is it beneficial for anyone at all?
Well, I have to say, obviously this year has been greatly different for a lot of people, but for DJs in particular. And my life has been a lot different. And I think it was Saturday morning, I was on my bike, like about 8:35 a.m. and it was beautiful. It was no one around. I was getting some exercise. Now, normally I'd just be like getting in at 8:35 on Saturday.
Same, exactly the same. Exactly the same. It was mad. On a walk with two of my mates yesterday just outside Bristol, and the first thing I said was like, I've been hungover in a hotel room for at least 10 years. Sunday morning, I am hungover in a hotel room, panicking how I'm going to get back to Bristol from whether I be in Newcastle or Manchester or Wales Project or whatever. I'm how am I going to get home? I'm so hungover, and now I'm like 8:30 in the morning, and I'm ringing my pals up, going, "Can we go and take your dog for a walk?" Like, what the hell?
I've been sort of joking with my mum, mainly because she would obviously have commented on this hungover thing. And I was like, it's amazing what you can get achieved when you're not as hungover in a year.
Yeah.
She's like, I have been trying to tell you this for about 15 years.
Yeah.
But, I welcome back those anxiety-ridden plane and train journeys. Like, I would give anything to be, getting on a plane or a train this weekend and heading off and doing gigs. So I certainly will be happy to get them back. I want to do. Go for it, man.
I just kind of feel like what you were just saying then. I'm like, I just feel that everything happens for a reason. So like, we're all going. Like, I've been lucky enough to play my music around the world and DJ in all these amazing places, and now I'm lucky enough to be at home. Like, I spent the last 10 years going, I wish I could spend a weekend and see my pals and go to my mate's birthday and stuff, or like, even just go for a walk with my pal when it's his birthday. And before I didn't have a choice, so I'm kind of living in the moment at the moment and accepting what it is, and also having the time in the studio to write tunes and to get ideas down and go, you know what, when it comes back, and please let me have enough time to make it real good for when it does come back. If that makes sense.
I think that makes a lot of sense, and I'll definitely clip that off because it's exactly the way that I think about it, and it's a great way to look at this time. And it leads me on to, like, I guess the question I've been interested to ask a lot of DJs at this point is: has it changed what you've been writing? Has it changed the sort of music that you've been writing the last 6-7 months, or have you doubled down on what you were making before, or has it given you a whole new sort of freedom and inspiration?
I think it's funny because when we started GotSome, it was it's about 5-6 years ago now. It was like, wrote bassline, and obviously with bassline, it was like, that's what made GotSome. And initially it was just like, it was a vocal tune with a bass line. Do you know what I mean? It was simple, but it had that crossover vibe. And then after that, I got into DJing more, and I became more of a club DJ, and I started writing club music, and started getting involved in the bassline thing and bass house and all of the things that were going on at that time. So I never really got time to think about it. And then the older I got, I was like, right, what am I going to do now? What am I actually into? Like, maybe I'm not really into that high impact bassy stuff anymore. Maybe I'm more into some techno, or maybe I'm more into like some deeper house stuff. So I kind of like over the last 2 years I kind of threw that around a bit. You know, I wrote house tunes on Nervous and King Street and stuff like that, and then I wrote some more sort of vocal stuff on Armada, and then I started doing some throwback American stuff on Ultra in America, you know. So I was sort of like trying to work that out, and then obviously when lockdown happened, it was like, right, I don't really have a choice. There's no clubs open, you know. So what do I want to do? And it's like, then I started. I did this thing at the start of lockdown. I set my laptop up on my kitchen table, and I just like started sampling random stuff. And I was like, oh wow, this is cool. I had a little like machine or whatever on the table, and I was just like banging things. And I was like, this is cool. And I ended up writing like 10 beats. And I just ended up like hitting singers up. And I was like, oh, you know, I'd like to send you this beat. And then randomly, like, people started sending stuff back to me. And I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, I haven't got a manager. I haven't got an agent. It was like real DIY, kind of like MySpace time. It was like, if you're into something, call that person up and say, you know what, I'm really into you. Here's some stuff. If you're into me, hit me back. And then, yeah, things just started going. And within that, I guess that's where I wrote Caught in Your Rhythm, which was my latest release. Yeah, with Clem. That came out on Tool Room. Again, it was just one of those things. It was like, I was sitting on my kitchen table. I wasn't in a studio. So I was like, right, this is what I'm going to do. Be proactive and try and reach out to people and see what comes back. And that's kind of what came back.
Well, that tune inspired me to reach out to Clem, and I've done something with her.
Yeah.
But the way you've just described that is exactly how I felt. Like, suddenly I'm not playing in a club every Friday and Saturday. Suddenly I'm not feeling the pressure to write records during the week to play every Friday and Saturday in those clubs, like those high energy clubs. And then exactly what you've just said is so funny. There must be so much amazing music to come out next year, because I'm imagining a lot of producers have done the same thing. And I was like, I think I was driving to the shops about a month ago, and Tidal Wave came on by Subfocus. And I was just like, and I was like, I forgot how much I love this record.
Yeah.
I spent like a week tracking down the girl who like wrote the vocal and sang the vocal, Catherine. And then we've just done, like, I sent her this tune. I was like, I've written this piano thing. Like, I'd love it if you could take a listen. And she was like, oh, I love it too. Let me write a vocal. And it's like, so you've just totally described what I've been doing the last like few months.
I think also, obviously when you're touring and stuff, you kind of like end up maybe relying on the team around you, or managers, or remix people, or publishers and stuff like that. And I just feel the more and more I've gone into lockdown and gone into this year, the more and more I'm like, you know what, I've been in this scene long enough to know who I know and call people up and be like, also like, it's really nice when you reach out to other artists and show them love and appreciate their music, you know? That's really important. And that's what like a lot of people have kind of, I guess, within the internet have kind of forgotten to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's cool. Like, I'm, especially being from Bristol, like I'm surrounded by amazing creative and amazing musicians.
Yeah, there's a couple of people that I've done that with recently. Like, I think I got a promo from Adelphi Music Factory, and I was just like, it just made my day. And I was like, I just hit them up. I just DM'd them on Instagram and was like, obviously I shared it and stuff on my story. And then I just hit them up going, guys, like, this record's just made my fucking day. Like, thank you. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like, there was no other, like, it wasn't a networking thing. It wasn't like, oh, bro, let's collab. It was just, guys, thank you for making my day. Like, this record has been, and, you know, and they wrote back and were just like, thanks, man. I'm glad you like it. And do you know what I mean? And I did it with, is it Lee Killington? Like, he put something up the other day with the lovely Laura. And again, I just reached out to him and was like, man, this record's just really made my day. Like, it's just, I just think it's so important to do that, because everyone's going through the ups and downs within their lives at the minute. And I just think it's really, as a fellow creative, I think it's so important to call someone up and go, you're really into what you're doing, like carry on doing what you're doing, because it's cool. Yeah, nice, man. Well, let's go back to the beginning. Let's take you way back before GotSome, way back before
Yeah,
DJing, way back before
yeah,
producing. I want to go all the
yeah.
way back to your early formative, younger child self, and I just want to find out where those original musical influences came from. What was on in the house? Was it parents? Have you got older brothers and sisters? Like, what were those first
Yeah.
bits of music that you can remember seeping into your ears when you were a young guy?
My dad used to, when I was really young, my dad used to work for WH Smiths, I think at like Christmas time. And then I think at Christmas he bought me a drum kit. And my mum was so annoyed by it. She's like, oh my God, why did you buy my drum kit? And then I just used to wake up every morning and just bang, just like that. And you know what? I don't know how to play the drums. I still don't know how to play the drums. But that was like the first thing. And then I used to watch Top of the Pops, showing my age now. I used to watch Top of the Pops with my dad. And music in the 90s was just so great, basically. And then my mum, I used to go like hang out with my mum on Sundays, and she used to play reggae to me. A couple of her friends, I mean, she was in the Bristol scene in the 80s, doing sort of arty stuff, and she used to do press and stuff like that in Bristol. So that was kind of active, and she knew a few DJs in the 80s that did her like mixtapes. So I used to hear like acid house and reggae, and like early hip hop. It's really funny, when I was a kid, they just used to call everything that they used to go raving to hip hop. So where all like it was just all party. It was like hip hop and house. It was just like an amalgamation. And I remember hearing the Jungle Brothers, and I also remember hearing Eric B and Rakim, Paid in Full, and that was like when I was so small. And I just remember that Paid in Full changed my life. It was like that was the first tune I think I listened to on loop. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then I got really into reggae because reggae music was like Sunday. And then obviously being from Bristol and then seeing Massive Attack, it was all like that whole sound trip hop thing was sort of amalgamated. And then when I was like had enough time to think on my own 2 feet, I was all of a sudden in the rave times. And I used to go around to my mate Lawrence's house, and his older brother, this kid called Greg, he used to skate and used to go to raves. He was going to like World Dance and Dreamscape and all them big raves in the 90s in the Southwest. And I remember, excuse me, I remember one day hearing this music coming out of his room, and I was like, what the hell is this? I was like playing Sega or something, and I ran into his room. This is Greg's room at the time, and I was like, yo, what's this music? And he's like, be back in an hour. And he like gave me a tape of I think it was LSD at Universal something. And I went home and I just listened to that until the tape wore out. And that was kind of it, really. And then I was just like into that. I would go to all the shops every Saturday and try and buy tape packs because obviously I was too young to get into the raves. So and then I kind of found out about all the rave tunes from then, because obviously you didn't have Shazam then. So it was like what happened is you listen to the tape again and again and again. You were like, oh, I like that tune. You remember that tune and you could hum it basically. And then one of my mates, Albion, who's a little bit older than me, he bought some Technics. And he was fully into hip hop. So he was like listening to Tribe, De La Soul and Biggie.
Nice.
So I used to go around his house after school and basically just jizz on the decks and just be like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to learn. And we used to do this thing where we used to get like 2 copies of one tune, and we used to get like a Rizzler and put the Rizzler in and you'd do it on a kick or a snare, and then you would like double it and I just learned how to do doubles, and that was it. I didn't know how to DJ at all. I didn't know how to beat match or anything. And it was funny. And then I started trying to beat match. So I was beat matching hip hop and I guess early jungle at the time, and I realized my mate told me that I was mixing off the snare. I was like, how am I actually mixing snare to snare? And that like blew my mind when someone told me I had to mix off the kick. And I was like, and then I was like, wow. And I was working at a supermarket at the time. And I was just working overtime. I think it was over Christmas or like summer. And I worked non-stop to get my own set of Technics. And that was it really. And then I just would just be a record shop bitch, I would say. I would just hang out outside record shops and wait for the promos to turn up. And then basically, if it wasn't there, I would sing to the record shop guy. No, 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 no. Or like, whatever it was like, oh, it's like Warhead or something like that. I would just sing, and then, well, let me stop you there because you've almost answered like the first quarter of my questions in that. Oh, right. In that let's do a recap. Yeah. I love that, man. But I'm gonna take because I get interested in people's stories, which is obviously why I do this. So one of the things I wanted to ask you was like, and you may have already answered this like with the tape or whatever, but do you remember the first piece of music that was yours physically? Like either you bought it or it was given to you. Like was it that tape or did you have something before? Nah. My dad was really good at this. Like, he was buying me records like from quite a young age.
Okay.
My first thing that he went to buy me, this is showing my age as well, is Run DMC Raising in Hell, which I believe Rick Rubin produced, and it was an absolute banger. And it came out on London Records, I think, if I'm geeky enough to know. And then second one around the same time, which is not so cool, but I've got a good story to go with it.
Yeah,
was Culture Club Karma Chameleon.
Nice. Yeah,
Culture Club is Boy George, obviously.
Yeah.
So my story about Boy George is that I was on tour in Asia about 10 years ago, and I ended up doing 2 or 3 shows with Boy George.
Right.
And he's amazing. But yeah, he's great. And I told him that he was my first 7-inch that I got. And we were in Phuket at the time, randomly. And we had it was my birthday and they took me out for dinner and we had lobster. And I think I seem to remember him falling asleep at dinner. So sometimes people say never meet your hero, but big ups Boy George because I've got so much love and respect for the guy.
I might have mentioned it on the podcast before, but a long time ago. Yeah. My first bits of music that I remember kind of buying and owning and touching and then being mine, like not just my mum's that I was playing. I went to I think it was Woolworths, and my mum said you can have two 7-inch because you had the turntable in the house. You can have 2 7-inch, and again, so we're probably going to show similar ages here. I went for Do the Bartman, which was a 7-inch, obviously.
Yeah, I remember that.
Real purple cover with Bart on it, amazing. Yeah, and also I got Danger Zone, which was the Kenny Logan's Top Gun theme. So
I remember.
I mean, I'd love to meet Kenny Logan. I think it's unlikely though.
Yeah, wow.
But yeah,
I watched Top Gun a couple of weeks ago actually.
Oh, it's a beast.
It was amazing.
I can't believe they're going to release. Aren't they going to release like a Top Gun 2 soon? That just seems like something you shouldn't do.
Yeah,
that just seems like something you shouldn't do. So we talked about, obviously you got your friend got decks. When were you sort of before your friend got the decks? Obviously you talked, which is really interesting, about your mum being involved in the Bristol scene and stuff. So you were kind of really aware of DJs from like a really, really young age. Were you seeing?
My mum used to hang out with. It's quite like relevant, really. My mum used to hang out with this DJ called West One, and she was born a man, and then went through the processes. And this was obviously quite taboo at the time. And I don't know if she's still around, but yeah, DJ West One. and she used to play at Lakota and all the the big underground sort of house clubs in the 80s and 90s. And my mum used to do club decor back in the day when it was like a new thing. It was like they used to have like obviously camouflage nettings, and she used to do slides, where you do like mad arty pictures on slides, kind of like kind of throwback to what New York did, I guess, so kind of like like Andy Warhol-y kind of pop arty stuff, and that used to go on the wall behind the DJ, so that was obviously, I didn't have a clue about that. I was like a wee kid at this point, so but obviously I would hear the music, I heard the tapes. I remember hearing Break for Love by Raves. I remember that thing. Obviously not at the time, but and then obviously growing up and hearing that and going like, I remember hearing that when I was a kid. And also I remember like I remember my mum getting babysitters, and I remember waking up and the babysitter leaving and my mum coming back from the club, and she would have her friends round, and they always used to sit in the garden, and I used to wake up in the middle of the night and hear like my mum having the afters. I mean, but I didn't have a clue. I was like a wee kid. Babysitter's gone. Wake up and I'd do a Break for Love and that, and I'd be like, "Whoa, this is like I liked it." And then I just chipped off back to bed. But that was sort of like, I was lucky enough to have that around, I guess.
That's wicked. I think you mentioned there about your mum doing the art and stuff, and it's something that I'm sure there are clubs around the world that do this still, but I get frustrated that art doesn't seem to be as involved with club culture as it was. Like those times around, like maybe the late 90s, but also through the 2000s, that it just felt like club flyers and club artwork and club decor in some respects had a bigger link to the art, not just music. And club flyers recently.
It was new, wasn't it? It was new. It was new, and there was no internet. So the whole culture thing was culture. It was like you would go to an art gallery, and an art gallery at that time would be similar to going to a rave.
Yeah,
it's that same creative hot pot. It's like a melting pot of creativity. And now it's like, it's such a business because of Instagram, and because it's quite hard for culture to breathe now, because it's like back in the day, it was like you had a fresh shirt on, or fresh pair of trainers on, and you went to a rave, and that was the thing. But now it's like some kid will see your fresh pair of trainers on Instagram and they're going to go and buy them. Same thing with, say El Row. We all went to El Row when it first started, right? And it was like, El Row was like, no one had seen anything like El Row. Like, it was like a massive carnival, And then within like 6 months, because of Instagram and because of Insta stories, everyone around the world knew what it was. So that everyone wanted to be there and see it. So the whole art of being creatively cool and underground kind of like skipped a beat then. It just jumped. So it's like, it's quite hard now to find that like pocket. I don't know if that makes sense at all.
No, it makes a lot of sense. And I think it's something that we talk about with different guests all the time, which is that juxtaposition between the time in the past where it was the gatekeeper. It was much harder to become an international DJ and producer because the cost of the equipment and and everything else. So on one hand, it's removed so many things that were in the way of people. It's so much easier to put a party on now. It's so much easier to make music now. But because of that, there's so much more of it, which in a way devalues it. It was something that, we talked to Scott Diaz quite a lot about, and he was saying we should all make half as much music, but it should be double as good. But we're sort of forced into, creating content we're doing it now, creating content all the time because you're just feeding the beast. Do you know what I mean? Which is content.
Yeah, because if you're not relevant, you're not going to get the shows, are you?
Yeah.
And that's where most DJs earn their living, Yeah. So it's like, that's why it's got to be, there's, I go through times of writing a song, releases coming out every 3 weeks. Like, would I choose to do that? I don't know. But then I've gone through times of being touring for 2 years, and I've put like one tune out a year, and it's like, is that acceptable either? You know, there's got to be a balance somewhere.
So let's take you to the point in your life where you are working overtime to save up to get a pair of decks, and they're expensive, man. Like, you know, when you're a kid and like, you know, and you don't have a lot of money, you know, I mean, what were we talking about? Was it 800 quid, £1,000 for 2 decks?
Yeah, about but something like that. Yeah.
And that's a lot of money for like, and that's a lot of hours, like an overtime. So if I take you back to that period in your life, what are you thinking about now? Are you thinking about, I need to get gigs? Are you thinking like, this is right? So what's going through your head at this point?
It's not that at all. It's completely different now. It's like what it was then. It was like working all week, and then you go to the record shop on Thursday, Friday, get your 5 records that you heard on a tape pack or on the radio, on pipe radio, whatever, and then you would go and you'd practice them tunes, 5 tunes again and again, to work out which ones you could double drop, which ones sonically went together, because you didn't have record box, you didn't have mixed in key saying that's a B sharp, and can that B sharp go to A minor or da 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 da. You know, I mean, you actually had to sit there and go, does that tune work? I didn't get the whole double dropping thing. I would go and see Andy C, and I'd be like, how the heck is he doing that? And then I'd start working out how to count bars and stuff, and that like blew my mind as well. So, you know, that was the thing. I think back then it was just like it was just an art. It was like you had to learn. Now it's like you write a big tune, then you put it in record box, and then you work out B minor, and then you go, shoot, I need to go and get a gig now so I can show everyone that I can DJ. I don't know. And it's like,
I think it's a really nice point that you're making, because I asked that question to a lot of people, and now I guess it's because my mind's like that, your mind's probably programmed like that, which is like, make record, release record, get gig, do gig, write better record, release on bigger label, get bigger gig. But what's really nice that you've just said there is, and it made me think of it, was like, it's just that working for the weekend thing, which is like, I work all week to have the money to buy my new records, to buy a new shirt, to go to a rave, to play my records at the after the rave, and then I feel shit, then I do it all again. And there was definitely a nice innocence about that. Like,
there's no money in it. You know what I mean? Even when I watched something about Cole Cox, and he was like, oh mate, I was going to loads of raves, and I turned up and I played my records, and there'll be like 10,000 people there, and then a woman gave me 150 quid, and I was like, and I was buzzing about it. Do you know what I mean? Like, he was buzzing about that. And now, like, there's certain producers out there that will like write a Beatport 100, and they're like, they'll be gutted if they don't get a grand. Do you know what I mean? It's like, so it's definitely a funny time.
So what are those first steps then? Like, what are those first steps that change you from being a kind of a living for the weekend, like buying your records? What is the first steps on the journey of becoming a DJ, becoming an artist? Like, what are those first steps?
It's quite funny actually. I was lucky enough to be around the whole drum and bass and jungle scene when I was quite young, and I used to go skateboarding when I was a kid, and used to meet up with a load of Bristol heads when I was skateboarding. One of those Bristol heads was a producer and DJ called DJ Die, and we kind of like skated together, partied loads. We were just pals from when I was young. He was a lot older than me. He kind of brought me in at the time when him and Ronnie and Crust, and they, you know, if you know about drum and bass like that, they were doing Represent and Full Cycle, their record label, and crew. And one of the things that really like changed my spectrum and idea about what I wanted to do was watching, I guess, him, Ronnie and Crust at the time, going skateboarding on Monday or Tuesday, going around the studio. And this was at the time where they were like just starting to get big, and seeing them, and they'd be like, oh, we're playing at Fabric. So Fabric had just opened, and they're like, we're playing at Fabric on Friday. And it was like, and for me, it was like, wow, Fabric, like, this was an amazing thing. And then and they would do this thing where they would go in the studio every day from Monday to Thursday, and they would smash out like loads of tunes, try and do as many as possible. And then what they would do is on Thursday night, Friday morning, they would drive to London to Music House, which was the cutting house, where you would go and cut your dub plates, right? And then they would be in the queue outside of Music House at like 9 a.m. or whatever, being like, oh my God, we got to go cut our dub plates before we DJ on Friday night. And then you would see like Groove Rider and see, excuse me, DJ Hype and everyone, and they would like skip the queue. And you see their face, Ronnie and Dice faces be like, oh my God, I've been waiting there all morning. And Groove Rider, Goldie just walked in and be like, oh, God, gutted, like pissed. And then you see them get their dub plates, go to the show, play their music. And for me, like, that was a real inspiration, because that was like, I want to be a DJ now, or I want to make music. And I want to have that feeling that I made that music on Monday and I went on Friday to the rave and 1,000 people told me to rewind it, or they appreciated my music that I made on Monday. And got mad respect for that. So that was to answer your question, that was the main turning point. I was like, I think that's a wicked story, man. Like, there's such lovely nostalgia about that whole, like, I mean, there's so many facets in that little story there alone that I really love. I love the idea that, you guys, the crew are going down from Bristol to London to be, in Fabric, which is, an absolute monster UK club. If you're not, I mean, hopefully everyone's aware of it, but if you're not, go and check it out. I love that idea. Like you said, it's something that doesn't happen now. I love that idea of going and getting your music put onto vinyl to take to the club. And then, like you say, you sum it up at the end where you're just like, then there's that epic moment where the music that you've just been making on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is absolutely destroying the main room or whatever at Fabric. And people are going crazy. Yeah, exactly. So what then? So that was the inspiration, right? Amazing story. What do you then do? Are you like, right, I need to be a producer, I need to make music? Or were you like, I need to be a better DJ, I need gigs? What was the sort of, how were you going to achieve your goal? I achieved my goal by a bunch of stuff. I started working in the industry at that point. I started working firstly for a drum and bass and hip hop night in Bristol called Drive By, which is run by this guy called Gerard. Started promoting that, started becoming a resident there, did that for a bit, and then I moved to London to go to university. After working for Drive By, I ended up hooking up with like the drum and bass guys. So I ended up hooking up with Brian G and Jumpin' Jack Frost at the time, and they were like, yo, we're doing movement and all these parties in London. Do you want to come and do what you're doing in Bristol and London? So I went to London and got involved in that. So started working in London and DJing in London at Barumba. I started playing, early doors there. Excuse me. It's a bit dusty in my studio, so if I'm coughing,
it's all right.
You know what the deal is.
It's all right.
And then started doing that, and then I came back to Bristol after then, and then I was like, what am I going to do now? I started DJing for fun at a bar in Bristol called E-Shed on a Saturday night, and me and my mate Ben Daly, who's a garage DJ in Bristol, he's actually from Leicester, but moved down to Bristol early to go to university or something, and we started jamming. And then I was like, what am I going to do? So, and then...
What did you do at uni, by the way? What had you done at uni?
I did graphic design.
Cool.
And I did internet design and early internet design and stuff like that. So that was... obviously, I don't do that now. But I kind of know what I want artistically, but I don't really know how to do it. So back to what I was saying. I came back to Bristol. I managed to get a job randomly at a record shop called Chemical Records, And Chemical Records is originally from Cheltenham, I believe, and then they went online and they bought a website in Bristol where they sold like decks and equipment and records.
Yeah, I've heard
and they wanted they wanted me to work front of house. It didn't end up going very well, and the guys at Chemical Records sacked me. On the day that they sacked me, I had a conversation with Danny Bird, drum and bass DJ that's on Hospital Records.
Legend.
And he said, "Sort it out, mate. What are you doing anyway?" So and then I was like, "Oh, well, I don't know, I'm at a loose end." So he was like, "Come to Bath," and it was like a summer's day. Got on the train, literally left Chemical Records, got on the train, went to Bath, and he's like, he wasn't really writing a lot at the time. I think he had a bit of writer's block or something. And I was like really amped, and I was like, let's write a tune. And me and Danny Bird wrote a tune, and it was called Planet Music. And it actually came out on Hospital. I don't know what date it was, but it came out on Hospital, and I went under the name Adrock. And it was Danny Bird and Adrock, and it was called Planet Music. From that day, that changed my whole, again, kind of similar to the Fabric thing. That was a game changer for me. And I was like, right, I need to move from just being a DJ to like learning how to write. So and then I enrolled the next day, literally, I went and enrolled to do music at college, and I rolled to Western College, which in my area was quite a big Red Light went there, and a bunch of other big musos have all been there. So I was like, straight away, was like, right, I need to learn how to go and use Logic. I need to learn how to write music, basically. And that was it. So it was quite funny. It was in 1 year. It just seemed to kind of like, I was like, right, I need to go and do this. And it was a changing point as well in the industry, when it was like, you couldn't just be a DJ anymore. There was a massive time, a massive era where it was like, before it was like you could be a DJ and be like Carl Cox and not have to necessarily put a tune out. You could be Judge Jules or whatever. Yeah. And or Pete Tong.
I always think the last one for me, who really, maybe a different scenes, but I always point to Yusef. I'm always like, Yusef was the last one who broke through onto an international touring scene by just being a fucking good DJ. And I know he's gone on to release tunes, but at the time he wasn't. And then it just totally changed. Like then it was almost like, again, I look at that point of like, it's almost like the Tim Deluxe changing point where like just won't do comes out, and suddenly you have to have a record to get international touring, otherwise it's not a thing.
Like how are you going to be in Ibiza without a smash summer record? Do you know what I mean? So for me it was like, then I did it, and so I was going to music school, and I was still doing my Saturday night with this guy Ben Daly.
Nice.
He's amazing Bristol DJ. Try and check him out. There's a new Bristol radio station in Bristol, and he does every other Saturday. Nice. Just called Ben Daly, and he plays quality house and garage music. So good. But me and Ben Daly were playing every Saturday together. And what would happen is we'd play hip hop together. Then Ben would play house and garage, and then I would play drum and bass and jungle at the end.
Nice.
And by that point, we were absolutely KO'd. And
sounds like a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. But in the meantime, he taught me about house music, because I was hip hop and drum and bass and jungle at that point. And then he started showing me about Moss at Work. He started showing me about Kerry Chandler. He started showing me about Switch. The guy called Switch was a massive influence
Dave,
on
right?
me. Yeah, Dave, Dave, yeah. And he was Solid Groove as well.
Yeah. This is sick. What a record, mate. This is sick. What a record.
I mean, that was kind of the turning point for me from being a drum and bass DJ to being a house DJ. It's Basement Jacks came out, and This Is Sick came out, and Jesse Rose, and I was like, wow, it's kind of like Rave was happening, Hot Chip was happening, and I was like, I had some crazy color outfits that I used to go and DJ with, and I was in it, and I was like, yeah, that's cool, and that's when I started doing it. That's when I started writing beats, and that's when it all changed. So
am I going to skip a huge chunk if I ask you like where the GotSome brand became, like where the name come from, where the baseline idea? Am I skipping a huge bit of time?
No, not really. I mean, so in this new rave era, I started a band, a 6-piece band with my pals. And we were called Substatic, and we were basically kind of a new rave trip hop band. And there was a singer called Colleen, and then just a bunch of my mates. We had a drummer, we had a synth player, guitar player, and a violin player. It was out there. Listening back to the music now, it kind of sounded a bit like Magnetic Man.
Okay.
But kind of, we did all right. We got a manager. We started putting tunes out. This was before Spotify. It all sort of dispersed. A couple of the guys moved to London, so we weren't really practicing. We weren't really doing gigs anymore. Then the manager that I bought ended up sacking me. I don't really know what the vibe was, but bless her. And then I got sacked, and then 3 members of Substatic started a new project. And at this point, this was when dubstep was just finishing, and there was kind of that post dubstep sort of like garagey, new garage thing. And it was me, Alex, and Jeff. We started this new project called Forget Me Not.
Okay.
And I hooked up with a guy called Jamie Russell that did Hypercolor. Do you remember the label Hypercolor?
Yeah.
I think Hemsley and Mary Jane Cole and all that lot came up. Yeah. And he was just starting this other label called Losing Suki, which was sort of sister label to Hypercolor. And he heard a couple of the Forget Me Not tunes and was like, yo, I'm putting this out. So I was like, this is great. A couple of them had risky samples in it. We did the garage tune with Mary J. Blige called Big Things, which EZ used to play crazily. And then we did a tune, Stronger, which I sampled who did I sample? Amy Winehouse. Used to Be Stronger Than Me, and I pitched her down so she sounded like a man. And again, that got picked up, and Pete Tong was playing that, which is crazy. And then finally, one of the guys, Jeff, wrote this kind of like slow-mo jungle tune called How Long. And amazingly, another DJ picked it up. Lauren Garnier picked it up.
Wow.
And then we were like, wow, this is great. We never thought that we were going from being in a band to doing this. We never thought it was going to be like that. So we started writing. We wrote a tune with Neo. Oh, Neo. You know Neo? She's a big R&B singer.
Yeah.
Sings with like Disclosure and stuff. We did a song with her. We did a bunch of other songs, and so that sort of rolled on for about a year or so, and then Jeff moved to London.
Were you gigging? Like, was that trio sort of? Were you gigging together? How did you gig? Did you gig? There was the 3 of you at the gigs, or how did you do it?
It was me and Jeff, because Alex and DJ. Alex was always more of a studio guy. He was an engineer. So me and Jeff did that, but Jeff moved to London, so we weren't really getting to. It was mainly me and Alex in the studio at the time, just because Jeff was in London. So off the back of that, I guess we started GotSome, And it's funny because there was a middle time where actually Baseline, I think, maybe was a Forget Me Not tune at the time.
Right.
And then no one picked up on it. It's funny. I sent it to Annie and Pete and Kissy Sellout and everyone at the time, and no one picked up on it. And there was one person that really had my back, and that was B Traits.
Yeah.
And B Traits was just coming through at the time, and she was like smashing out, kind of like where Jaguar is now.
Yeah. She
was like really introducing all the youngsters, like bringing in everyone. And Pete Tong went on holiday or was sick or something, and Beatrix took over his show one night and ended up like starting the show with Baseline. And I just remember waking up to loads of messages and DMs from Defected saying, "Oh my God, what's this record?" And I was like, wow. I was like, wow, I never thought that would happen. And then next thing I know, I was in the Defected office with Simon Dunmore and Andy Daniels, and we were signing the record, and obviously at that point, Jeff had definitely moved to London, and I was like, didn't really want to like carry on Forget Me Not and Russ or not be together.
Yeah.
With three people, with a trio, it's really important, I feel, that you're creating in the studio together. Otherwise it gets quite disjointed, and some people like this, some people like that. So, and then I guess I started GotSome off the back of that, and it was me and Alex. And
where'd the name come from, man?
Came from a funk record. I sampled this funk record, and it was the drum beat was called "Have You Got Some?" And I was like, yeah, I like that. We were just like, God, what are we going to call ourselves? And then it was just like, Got Some with a capital G and a capital S. That was important. I had to write it on my bio because I kept getting people doing Got Some without the capital S. And it was like, oh my God.
Shady.
Dilemma. But anyway, whatever.
First world problems.
Yeah, obviously. But yeah, that's kind of how.
And then I mean, it's about you in whole, but obviously, the baseline thing is a really big part of it. And I'm always super interested in this, from the point of sort of writing it to the point of you being sat in the office with Simon and Andy, to the point of it being released, and then how did it change your life after that? Talk us through the journey from like the inception of the idea right through to what happened, what it created for you.
So the whole thing with Baseline, it was quite funny. I had a studio on my own in above a metal workshop. I think it's like a motor gear shop. So they build metal gears. And my studio was above there. And I basically, my friend from Manchester had a band called the Get Along Gang. And it was him and his girlfriend and his girlfriend's best mate. And he used to write the beats, and she sang, and her best mate danced, and they were like choreographers. And he was like, you guys should do a remix of our tune, Baseline. So I was like, yeah, send me the parts. I'll go to the studio and I'll do the remix for you. So I sat there, I wrote a really massive kick, and I was like going through it. I started writing some claps, and so I got it, and then I looked in my Dropbox, and all I could see was the vocal, and I was like, oh man, send me the rest of the parts. Like, so I put the vocal in, and then I waited went and I got lunch, came back, still no parts. So then I was like, dude, I'm just going to write this tune now with the vocals. So you're either going to send me the parts or not send me the parts. And then I think he was like, oh, don't worry about it. So and then I ended up like, whilst I was waiting for him to send me the parts, I was listening to this tune, No Way Back, a classic tune called No Way Back. And it's by a guy called Adonis, proper old Chicago Don. And I kept listening to this tune, No Way Back. and it's got a bass, dum 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 dum, like proper like Kraftwerk. Like you knew Adonis was listening to Kraftwerk, so I was like, oh, wicked. And then my pal came out, and I was like, look, I want to write this beat, boom, 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 boom. So and then I had this is my bass line, boom, 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 just rolling and rolling around, and then I put some keys to it, and then I left the studio and kept listening to the tune. I was like, yo, this tune works. So and then it was a Get Along Gang Forget Me Not remix for a bit. No one was playing it. So and then what I did is I spoke to my pal and I was like, do you mind if I put Forget Me Not next to it to see if anyone picks it up? And he was like, cool, might as well, because his tune didn't come out at the time. So it was like, let's just make something of it. And then so I put Forget Me Not on it, sent it to Beatrix, and Beatrix is again, like linking back to what I said, sent it to Annie, sent it to Tong, everyone. Like no one was really feeling it. And then and then Beatrix played it, and then obviously moved it to GotSome, and then all of a sudden it was mad.
And what's the timeline on that? Can you remember the timeline? Can you remember the first day that you worked in the studio with the acapella to Beatrix playing it?
It was about 14 months.
Wow.
About that. Yeah, it was a long time, man.
Wow.
So my tip for producers, don't think because no one's in it or no one's playing it, don't think it's not trash. If you think a tune's a tune, keep rolling it, keep doing it, keep sending it to people. I remember seeing an interview with DJ Quast the other day, and he said about his main song, Stepper, Warhead. He said he played it at the parties for 2 years on dubplate, and he said it would clear dance floors. And obviously now, that's like one of the biggest drum and bass jungle tunes out there. You know, everyone in the world in drum and bass played that, you know. So please don't give up on stuff. And it's funny, I remember I was in America at the time, and I remember getting a message from Animac saying, oh my God, I've just heard your new song Bassline, GotSome. And I was there like, oh man, like I sent it like 14 months before. And so, and not dissing Annie, I'm not dissing Pink,
mate, it's just how the industry works.
It's just how it works. And it's, and I think I just want to hammer home that to producers like coming up now. It's like, don't give up. Like, also like just keep sending your music to people and just keep working, keep writing. And you know, someone might pick that song up from 3 years ago that you're blue in the face and tired of. Yeah. And that might become a Beatport top 10, you know? So
no, you've really got that, man. How much did it change your life? Was it as simple as that? Did that one record change your life? I mean, or was it part of a longer journey? Well, I mean, it's always part of a journey, but did it really change things? Yeah. Did it really just change things overnight for you? It went,
I mean, I was DJing at bars at the time. And my friend and manager who came and got involved in the project, he was like, what do you want to do after you sign this deal? And I was like, I want to stop. I was DJing, I'm going to name and shame it. I was DJing in this bar in Bristol called Embargo. And it was like, everyone goes there. You could be like the coolest hipster to like the cheesiest chavvy dude or whatever. Everyone ends up there. I was playing in there on Sunday nights and stuff. And I told my manager at the time, Ross, I was like, mate, just get me out of Embargo and we're doing all right. And fair play to him, big up Ross. He got me out of it, and I never looked back, you know. So so that was a turning point for me, but it's still a longer process, you know. And then when you, as an act, when you come in and you've got like a hit or whatever, then you're stuck because you've got to have a follow-up. And I guess that was what made it quite hard for me and Alex, because obviously when it became the dynamics between me and Alex is that Alex was an engineer and I was a DJ.
Yeah.
And we spent years and years together making this music and being, I guess, an act.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I was on tour flying around the world, and he was in the studio on his own, and it was tricky, man. We had such a tricky time because obviously I missed him, he missed me, we weren't writing together, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, Alex, you've got to come up with a hit now, and Adam, you've got to go and earn loads of money and DJ everywhere. And then it was like, and then a year later we're just like, God, like how are we going to do it? And it was really hard because, you know, we needed to be in the studio together, and it was really hard for him when I wasn't there, and vice versa. And I guess looking back on it, I wish I was more of a technical engineer producer and he was maybe more of a DJ. And I think looking back on it, we would be challenging the world together at the time, and that obviously broke us apart, you know, at the end of that year. And that's when I started becoming GotSome solo. Okay. I started moving guests, and then, you know, and then I started writing a bunch of stuff, and then I did the Kanye West edit of Fade, and I guess that was a big part for me, and that was, you know, that was me on my own. Me and Alex are still really, really close. I share a studio with him, like me and him, like we're like bros. Like you know, I really struggle to work. Like I work with him now. I love working with him now. Like I can't trust anyone with my mix downs. Like his ears for me are like you know, gold. So big up to Alex.
Can I ask you about Pump It Up? Because 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 from my point of view, right, I remember getting the promo for your Pump It Up, right, and I was like, oh, this is dope, and I played it at some gigs, and I was like, yeah, this is gonna smash, right, and then I wasn't really concentrating because obviously it wasn't my tune or whatever, and then the next thing I know, I'm like, oh, that's a different, what version is that? Like, and then it was like, it played out on the radio or whatever, and I was like, Endor, I was like, what? No, that was GotSome that did that. And then and then obviously that track just blew up to fuck. Like, from your point of view, what happened there?
Right, I guess kind of long story. Again, like big up Stan. I don't really know. Yeah, of course. I don't really know Dan very well, so I don't really have an opinion on that. But when I'll tell you what happened for me. Yeah. What happened for me is I went to BPM when it was in Mexico. The last time it was in Mexico, I don't know how many years ago that was, and I went to Circa Loco, and it was in a jungle, and the end, excuse me, the two DJs that were playing at the end were Martinez brothers and Seth Troxler, and they were playing the best set of the whole festival for me. And the last tune that Seth Troxler played on vinyl was a tune called "Pump It Up"
by Denzel. Is that right?
No. This is where Endor kind of went wrong.
Right.
It's by a band called the Black and White Brothers.
Right,
and it was original vinyl, right?
Okay.
And if you listen to his version and my version, there's a middle bit, right? And the Black and White Brothers is the original sample source, and the Black and White, they've got like a soul bit in the middle, which is really soulful and actually quite defectiveness. And I went home and kind of forgot about it. And then I was looking through my holiday snaps, and I saw this video of Pump It Up, Black and White Brothers. And I was like, I called Seth up and I was like, yo, what's that tune? What is it? And he eventually told me it was Black and White Brothers. So and then I went back to the studio and I wrote an edit. It was a DJ edit. That's all it was, a DJ edit. Yeah. And I sat on it for a bit. I didn't play it to anyone. Literally didn't play it to anyone. It was a DJ tool for me. And then Annie Mac emailed me and said, it's Lost and Found Festival. And that year, did I have anything? Actually, let's fast forward that. I remember something before. I went to ADE just after that year after being at BPM. So it would whenever ADE is, and
October.
And I took it. So I must have been sitting on it for ages. So it was October. I went to ADE and I played it to a few people. Played it to the guys from Armada, and I actually tried to give it to the guys from Defected, but that never ended up happening. And then I actually played it on. If you look at my SoundCloud, I went to play on Amsterdam Radio. And I played all my new tracks, and I played Pump It Up just to prove to everyone that it was way, way, way before. And then nothing happened. Again, I sat on it. No one picked up. The guys from Armada said that they were interested, but then it was just sort of like bubbling along at that point. And that's when Annie Mac emailed me. So that's the April or May after that October. Oh, wow. And Annie was like, "Have you got anything for me?" I was like, "Yeah, I've got this Black and White Brothers edit called Pump It Up." She battered it. She played it on the first night after Dennis Salt and Black Madonna, and there was some video of all of the little gay brothers, and they were all just pumping it up. If you look back on my Instagram, it is there. And then that's the day. That was when Armada came to me and they were like, "Yeah, we're interested now." After they saw that,
suddenly there's loads of fucking social media and a record label's interested. What a fucking surprise!
Yeah. I mean, that's another conversation. And then it sort of bubbled along, and then Annie basically was like, "Can I play it on radio?" I turned around to her and said, "No, you can't play it on radio." Because of what happened before. I was like, I preferred to get the sample cleared to see if I could do a remix of it or edit of it, make it official somehow.
Yeah.
She was like, okay. And then it got to Glastonbury and there was still hold-ups with the record label. The sample wasn't getting cleared. It was hold up with BMG. And then she was like, can I play it at Glastonbury? And can I play it at Lovebox? And I was like, throw caution to the wind. Let's do it and hope that it goes well. Because obviously with the Kanye thing, it that went really well. Because he supported me. And then there was a massive video, like loads of people videoed it at Lovebox. And everyone was asking, who was it? She was saying, it was me. And then a couple of weeks ago, I think it was South by Southwest, or Sam Divine played an edit of Pump It Up. And everyone kept messaging me saying, oh, we saw Sam Divine play your edit of Pump It Up. I was like, that because I'm pretty sure I gave it to Sam Divine about 2 years ago at ADA. But anyway, so yeah, and then I after a bit of like searching, a few of my friends finding out, I found out that Endor had done it, and I DM'd Endor and said, "Oh mate, I think we've used the same sample." And he goes, "What, the Denzel sample?"
Yeah, that's what I was like, thinking of.
I was like,
"What's that?"
And then I was like, Google Denzel, and then Denzel did best Denzel. He did quite a shit EDM. Excuse my French. He did a quite rubbish EDM version that came out on Ultra in 2003 or something.
Yeah.
And I obviously didn't. I sampled the original,
Yeah.
And then we had some brief conversations. He told me it was just a remix and an edit, and nothing was going to come of it. And then my manager talked to his manager. I don't know what's true or not. His manager said he heard it maybe on Annie Mac, or he heard it at a festival. He Shazammed it or whatever. Didn't know it was me. Thought it was Denzel. He did his edit. At this point, obviously, Sam Divine's battering it. And then later I find out that he did a deal with Defected. And what was kind of hard really is that it came out a day in between each other.
I couldn't understand that, because I got your promo, and then I looked back at the Defected release and was like, what?
But also, like, for me, there's a couple of things. Like, I've sampled loads of people.
Yeah.
I've sampled Adonis bass line. That wasn't my bass line. That's Adonis bass line. I did an edit of Kanye West.
Yeah.
And that record became the hottest record on Radio 1 the day before Kanye released his version.
Yeah.
That he'd done a whole video thing of it was at the VMAs and everything. So don't get me wrong, like,
the whole industry's built on sampling, do you know what I mean? And yeah.
And furthermore, like, I can't sit there and cuss someone for sampling. I've got you know, I can't sit there and cuss down for that. But what I can say is, like, yeah, for me, I would have kind of been a bit more honest about it. But then all the heads know that I wrote that. And if you listen to his and mine back to back, mine has got the original sample. It took 9 months to clear, because I didn't use just Pump It Up. I used the whole thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've credited them. I've given them all their money. Not Denzel. I've get the Black and White brothers. You know, so
it's just. I just think it's just a brutal insight into how the music industry can operate, really, and it's a strange one, because, like you say, you can't really blame anyone else for sampling any other record that's out there, because that's the deal. I mean, we taking you back to what we were chatting about before. I mean, very different situation to yours, granted, but the piano record that I sent Clem, like, I had Love Is the Answer, the old Blind Faith a cappella on it, and like I was using that, and then Chris Lake and Alan Van Helden dropped it like 2 weeks ago. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, now there's no way I'm going to go, well, Chris Lake and Alan Van Helden can't sample that, but any record that's out there can be sampled by anyone at any point. The problem is where the grey area, and we'll leave it after this comment unless you've got something to say. Where the grey area comes in is if you hear, as a producer, if you hear someone else's edit and then go and do your edit and then get it out, then it starts to get into a grey area. But as far as the music industry and sampling,
I think the key is just reaching out. I mean, I had relatively same thing with one of my friends. He showed me an edit, and then I did an edit of it. I didn't know that he had edited it. And then I did an edit. It was completely different. And then my edit ended up getting signed in the end. You know, so for me, my problem is not communicating. So when I had done that, I called my friend up and I was like, yo, I did this.
Yeah.
Do you mind it? Do you mind that I do that? You know, like I credit that guy for showing me it. But the thing for me is that he didn't do that. So, and fair play also, like, I want to shout down because he did something that I didn't do. I didn't make a commercially viable tune. I made an edit for me. I didn't put loads of like claps and da-da-da. I didn't make a tech house tune. I made a soulful house. I made a soulful house edit of a tune that I had for DJing. That was, you know, that's it. And then he's gone on and done. And another thing for me is like he's gone on and done another thing. You know, like he's done that other tune. I can't remember what it's called, and that's done well.
What's that sample?
You know, that Beethoven or one of them ones. And I think respect him, and he's got Beatport 100, Beatport top, you know, number one or whatever. So for me, like he got something from it that he found, and I think that's cool. So bless up to him.
What are people, so you've been writing these records, we've been in lockdown, I certainly have positive hopes for 2021 that we're going to get back out DJing and partying together. What music, like, what are people going to hear from you? Have you got anything that's signed and scheduled for release? What are people going to hear from you in the future?
I've got loads of things. So again, going back to kind of what we started to talk about at the start was at the start of lockdown, obviously. When I first started GotSome was a crossover house act, kind of. Wasn't really necessarily underground. And then throughout the time that I've been going, I slowly started making it more underground. and then COVID happened, and then I was like, right, I was going to do some more poppy stuff that's good on a little bit better on Spotify and da. And then I did the tune with Clem, and obviously now I've kind of done that. So I've just spent the last 6 months working with vocalists. I've been working with too many to mention, really. And yeah, things are starting to get signed now. But the other thing for me is just knowing who GotSome is. Like, I think I got a bit lost once when I was DJing a lot. I think I wanted GotSome to be something that it wasn't, and now I feel doing these vocal tunes like what I did with Clem, Caught in Your Rhythm. To me, that sounds like a GotSome tune.
Cool.
And I've done another tune that's going to come out early next year. Again, it's crossover appeal, but it sounds like GotSome. It's got a bass line on it. It's got a catchy hook in it. You know, that's my thing. You know, that's what GotSome is. You know, so yeah. I mean, that's happening. Also, I've started an alias. I'm not going to talk about necessarily. It's gonna come out next year and the year after. It's going to be a record label. It's going to be a party. It's already a radio show.
Nice.
It's on SWU FM in Bristol now, which is a massive kind of community radio station, which is on the FM. It's quite like Rinse in London. It's on the FM. It's spelled SWU FM. And you can check it online, and everyone is DJing on there. Everyone that you know and respect from Bristol, whether it be dubstep, drum and bass, house, techno, like everyone's on it. So make sure you go and check it. So I've started a new show there under this new alias, but I kind of want people to find it organically. I don't want it to be like, oh, GotSome's doing techno or GotSome's doing deep house. It's like, nah, I'm doing something different. I might not even release on it. I might release other people's music on it and create something that's a little bit bigger. I want it to be more of a thing, in that you listen to the radio show, you like the music on the radio show, then you hear what's coming out on the record label, and then you want to go to the party because of that. So there's more of a cycle. It's not just bang, bang, bang. It's like, oh, it's an organic thing that you want to be involved in, that you want to nurture, you know? So that's kind of what I'm doing behind the GotSome thing.
Nice, man. I mean, I'm really aware of the Bristol heritage, the Bristol scene. Like it's you know, it's given birth to so many amazing artists over the years, and it seems like it's had a real influence on you. I mean, from your mum being involved in it, you know, in the 80s or whatever, to you starting to go out there, and it's a real melting pot of cultures and sounds and DJs and inspirations. It'll be interesting to see. It'd be interesting to see what comes out musically in 2021, because there's going to be so many producers, you know, without a summer of festivals, without a summer of big tunes, without a summer of Instagram stories and whatever else to lead us. You know, we're all going to have been left to our own devices to make the music that we want to make.
I just want it to be positive, and I don't want the industry to be flooded. Like, I really don't want it to be flooded, because, like, that's going to be confusing for people as well. Also, I do feel, I know we haven't really talked about it, but about the raves that are happening. You know, there's going to be a lot of music and culture that comes out of them raves. Like, obviously, when I was a kid, I was going to raves and free parties. And kids these days maybe didn't have that, because they would go to Warehouse Project or Fabric or da-da-da. And obviously, like, if you were 15 or 19 right now, you'd be going to raves. Quite a lot of people are going to raves, you know. Obviously, I haven't been, but there's a lot of people that are going to raves, and they're going to be hearing certain music in them raves, and they're going to be watching certain DJs in them raves. And I feel that's going to be changing. That's going to be pushing a lot of people into the limelight that necessarily might not have had the chance, you know. Also, I want to shout out a girl that I've noticed at the start of lockdown and throughout the summer. There's a DJ called Alicia, who's doing doing like a bunch of raves and stuff. She's been doing like social distance raves, and I'm not necessarily into the music that she plays or the vibe that she's doing, but I really respect kind of what she's done in that she's DJ'd a couple years at Bodor, like a couple of the parties, and then she's come off the back kind of like when no one's watching, and is like, right, Alicia, she's gonna invite her pals around to DJ who are relatively unknown. Everyone's gonna play at social distance raves, and she did like a sold out tour in the summer.
Wow.
And I respect that. I think that's really cool. I mean, I think if my new project was as far as long as where she is, I would have done that, And maybe if lockdown carries on, I think with my new project, that grassroots thing and plan, I'm really into. I think that's cool. So shout out to her. I think that's a great look.
Nice one, man. Well, we're going to do a couple of little bits to wrap up the podcast, but before we do that, shout out yourself, like if people want to find out more about you, if people want to find out more about the radio show, anything you want to give a shout out to for people to go and Google and find some links, where should people go and check you out?
Just at GotSome DJ. So just all my handles are GotSome DJ. So my SoundCloud, my Spotify and Instagram. If you want to have some banter with me, I guess chat to me on Twitter, because that's the most direct banter thing. Regarding the new thing, I think you just got to find it. You just got to work it out.
Nice.
When I do that show, I play everything. I'll play hip hop. I'll play classic house music. I'll play grassroots hit, like techno, like Detroit techno. And then so if you like GotSome, then I won't necessarily play a GotSome tune on there. So, that's the whole concept behind the new thing,
Cool. Right, I'm going to hit you with some, to start wrapping up, there's a few things that I like to do, but to start wrapping up, I'm going to hit you with some quick fire questions. There's some serious ones, there's some silly ones. You can give me an answer, you can give me a paragraph, whatever you like. It's just a little bit of like silly quick fire to round it up. What is, you turn up to a gig, what is your drink of choice on the rider?
I've got two drinks of choices. My first drink, which everyone despises me for, is vodka Red Bull. I started really drinking vodka Red Bull when I was touring, and you wouldn't really have it on the first night, but when it came to Friday or Saturday, you definitely want to have it, because you would end up sleeping in the hotel and you'd end up waking up at 10 o'clock, grabbing a bite to eat, literally a bite, and then you'd be in the club and you'd be like, right, I need something that's going to, one, get me on a level with the rest of the crowd, and B, wake me up. And I'll do that with a slice of lime, because I hate Red Bull. So you'd have to like lace it up with lime to try and make it not taste like vodka Red Bull. And then my other one became later was really good quality tequila, and I'd have it on ice with a slice of orange. Yeah. So like Don Julio, just have a light or dark Don Julio with loads of ice. And the thing about what I learned when I was in Mexico is that alcohol on a whole is opiate. So alcohol makes you go to sleep. And when you have tequila, it's actually an upper. So agave, which they make tequila out of, is an upper. This is sugar. So
nice.
So yeah, there you go.
Favorite city that you've ended up being in due to DJing? So somewhere that you'd never would have gone before, you'd never have been on holiday or anything, you just ended up being there because you had a show, and then you ended up just kind of going, wow, this place is amazing. Yeah,
a couple of places, random places. I guess like Canterbury is one of them. Played like randomly in Canterbury.
Shout, mate, shout.
Yeah. And I'd be like, go to London, then you get a train from London for 2 hours, and then you're like in Kent, and you're like, and you turn up in Canterbury. And big ups to guys that used to book me in Canterbury. Those guys are wicked. And I hope one day soon that I could play there again. But yeah, it's just a nice town. And they've got Skinny Kitchen there. Do you know Skinny Kitchen that you have in Ibiza? Yeah. They've got Skinny Kitchen in there. Another random place is Norwich. It's like the regional god, Norwich. Obviously, Alan Partridge is from Norwich.
Nailed it.
But yeah, always have a really good time in Norwich. This guy called Juxtaposition, and he did a night called Deep Rooted, and all of us like everyone, like Route 94, Gorgon, MK. We all used to play there, and we'd all like go there on a Thursday, and we'd end up like staying in the hotel for like 4 days and like having parties and stuff. So big up all the Norwich gang. They love a rave, they do.
First club that you went to, like first proper club, you might not have been 18, but first proper like nightclub you went to, can you remember?
Yeah, probably Lakota in Bristol. And they used to do a night on Friday night called Temptation. And it was like hard house, like handbag house, hard house in the main room. John Please Women and like Judge Jules and that. And then in the back room they used to have like Ronnie Size and Goldie and stuff.
Nice. So
yeah, and I was very, very young and I shouldn't have been there. But I was there.
Best way, mate. Track that's influenced you the most in your career?
There's too many to mention. Probably one of the ones that really influenced me is by a guy called Bob James, and it's called Nautilus, and it's quite hard. I don't think it's on Spotify. It got re-released on Eureka Soul.
Wow.
Which Masterwork, I think, did an edit of. But Bob James, he plays piano and stuff. Bob James, Nautilus.
I'm going to go and check that out. So you get something through post-COVID, you get an email through from your booking agent or whatever, your manager, and you've got a lineup on there. It can be, wherever it is in the world or in Canterbury or in Norwich. But you see that you're on before someone and you're like, oh, wow. That's going to be great because I'm just going to get to play exactly what I want to play. I'm not going to have to really taper it at all. I'm going to get to play exactly what I want to play. And then when I pull my headphones out, I'm going to have the best couple hours because I'm either going to be in the booth watching whatever they're playing or I'm going to be on the floor losing my shit. Who's that DJ that you're just like, oh, that is just perfect. I'd love to warm up for them.
Oh my God, that's quite a hard question. Again, there's like so many. I mean, maybe someone like Bicep.
Cool.
But then, like what I'm putting out right now is totally different to what Bicep does, So I don't know. I mean, I've done some of those gigs. I remember playing at Hideout, and I remember playing before Duke Dumont when all the Duke Dumont's really good tunes came out, and I had that moment where I just like played my set, and then he came on and just did his thing, and it just like. It seamlessly went, and that was a really good experience for me. But yeah, Bicep. I mean, I've got loads of like people that I'm into, but also I guess like with what I'm doing with GotSome, it kind of the more vocally stuff. It's a bit different now, and I've started this new thing which is super underground, which would allow me to play with pretty much anyone on an underground lineup, So
I think that Duke Dumont answer nailed it for me, mate. It was wicked. We all know that kind of like famous clip of Coxy knocking out his set, the last set at Space and him finishing with Angie Brown and stuff. So my question is, if I put you in that sort of position and you were going to play the last record at like an iconic, Space or whatever, is there a record that would and I'm asking you to make this easier. I'm asking you who's GotSome, right? So if GotSome's playing that last emotional, emotive record, what would you be reaching for in that situation if you were going to try and convey that level of emotion and the finality of something?
Yeah, there's a couple. I want to quickly tell you a Carl Cox story.
Go.
I go to Burning Man quite a lot, and one of the last Burning Mans I went to, I was sun was rising in the middle of the desert. I just randomly met like five kiddies from, I don't know where they're from, Derby or somewhere, and we were having this most emotional time. And then coming out of the desert, we saw Carl Cox, right? And Carl Cox greets us and hugs us. I've got a photo on my Instagram somewhere, and he goes, "Come over here. I'm playing at this sound system called Playground." And he comes and he plays this like amazing 2-hour set, and he plays all hip hop, disco, and funk. And I usually only seen Coxy play banging techno, so I was like bowled over by this, and it really like hammered home to me about how amazing of a DJ he is, amazing selector he is, but also like given that opportunity to take people on a journey, and I really respect that, really love that. So big up Coxy, and that set at Burning Man, oh my god, it absolutely blew my mind. So going back to what you said, penultimate, GotSome set, last tune.
Yeah,
maybe
it could even be like, you know, like March, and you were booked to do a gig, and you knew that everything, you know, lockdown was coming in 9 months, and you knew this was the last record you were going to play on a sound system for maybe even a year. What sort of thing might you reach for? Like
maybe Strings of Life. Maybe Strings of Life. Maybe Guy Called Gerald. No, his tune. I don't know. I mean, there's so many, or even like a disco or boogie tune, or even like an R&B tune. Like that's what I mean. Like I'm like when you see me DJ in a bar or something like that. Like last couple of times I've DJ'd at Pikes. I've DJ'd at like Seth Trox's birthday parties and stuff like that. And you see all these big DJs, and they come up to you and they're like, I never knew you did this. And I'll be playing like, you know, like proper boogie and stuff like that. I'll be playing like, I don't know, like so many names to mention, but like just playing like the Gap Band or something like that. And they all come up and they're like, never knew you did that. So it's like, that's kind of like asking me what my last tune would be. I don't know. I'm quite like a out there DJ, so sometimes I'll just like play Candy Staten, it's quite cheesy, or I'd play like Moss at Work tune, or I don't know. Yeah,
nice man. That's a great answer.
I'm gonna say Strings of Life.
That's a great answer, man. But what I'm going to do is this is the penultimate thing. I'm going to get you to curate a sort of a dream gig. Like it's just in the moment. It's just fantasy. So first of all, we need like a venue where we're going to have it. It can be a real venue, like a club that you know, like Fabric. It can be a generic thing, like a basement club or a festival on a beach. But we need a place where it's going to take place. Then I want three acts. There's not so much a warm up and a middle and a headline. There's just sort of three co-headlines. It is whatever you want it to be. So it's dead or alive, it's back to backs, it's DJs, it's band, it's live acts, whatever you want. This is just a GotSome like dream gig. Where are we going to have it?
We're going to have it at this club that used to be in Bristol called Level, and it was dark and sweaty, and it had like 500 people in it. Nice. And it was really cool because it was like you walk downstairs and it was dark. And then the bar bit had this like kind of open panoramic view of Bristol. And it was really cool. So you get there sometimes on a summer night, and the sunset would just be going down, and then you'd go and you'd party there for that night. Who would I have on the lineup? You
can play, or you can just curate your own. It's totally up to you.
Yeah, Master at Work, 100%.
Nice.
Little Lou Vega and Kenny Dope. 100%. Maybe Laurent Garnier as well.
Nice. Yeah, solid.
Just because he's just like such a hero.
He's the Don.
I've recently been listening to Tiga's podcast. I don't know if you've listened to Tiga's podcast before.
But I do love Tiga.
It's really important. If you're doing podcasts, there's one music podcast I really recommend you to listen to.
Okay.
There's about 10 of them.
Okay.
And he is one of them. And after listening to them, he chats to both Benji B and Fortet. I would definitely get Benji B and Fortet, because they're both, for me, I listen to Benji B show like weekly, and he plays great music. Fortet, the fact that he's not a DJ, came a DJ late in the game, but he can go and play a grime record or garage record and then play a techno record. I really respect that. And I guess that's maybe something I kind of regret as GotSome. As I guess I feel like when I go and DJ, I feel that people expect high energy GotSome, and sometimes maybe I don't want to do that, and maybe I want to play melodic techno, or maybe I want to play R&B. I remember seeing Soul Clap, and they were like in their peak of like their cool house stuff, and I remember seeing them at a festival, and they played an R&B set, and I remember all the cool kids were like going crazy because they didn't play any techno, and I was like, that's amazing, that's so good to be in.
But doesn't that bring it back to what you said before, which is that we are now defined as artists by the records of which we release? When 20 years ago, you weren't defined by the records you released. You were defined by being a good DJ. So people were much more open to whatever, Sanchez played or whatever, because he was a DJ. You weren't going, you've got to play this record.
Because you were respected as a selector. Yeah. And now you're GotSome, that DJ that plays that song.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. And 100%. for me with my new project, again, that I'm not kind of saying too much about or blowing about, is I want that whole movement. I want it to be a movement. I want people to come to the party, whether I'm playing or not. Yeah. If I do a party, I might not play, but I might have a bunch of friends that are going to play like-minded music
that you've selected to play with.
Not even that I've selected, but I trust them as selectors.
That's what that's what I mean.
And they're, so all the people that are going to come to the party, they're going to be like, yeah, this is a vibe. I've noticed it quite recently with there's a guy on who plays like hip hop and R&B and stuff on Beats. He's called Joe K, and there's a radio thing. He's called Selection Radio. And he's done it. He's very homegrown, very sort of millennial, and has started from the bottom. He's from LA, and he's got a whole crew around the world, like literally every corner of the world. And he could put that DJ and put that brand Selection, Soulection, and people will go there because of that. Yeah. And I like that. I respect that. I think that's cool. Even if you're not into the music, it's about creating a thing, a culture, a brand, a movement that people are like, yeah, I'm into that. I like that. I like what they play, And I think that's key. I don't know if that really answered your question. But
doesn't matter. It's a phenomenal thing to say. I would totally agree with you. So last thing I want you to do is, we've been chatting for like an hour and a half. It's been a phenomenally interesting. No, it's been a phenomenally interesting, engaging chat. Like, I didn't know too much about you as a person. Obviously, we've never met, but this chat's been absolutely amazing.
Amazing,
What I'd love you to do is pick a record that's going to play out the audio podcast. It can be anything. It can be one of yours. It can be something you heard yesterday. It can be something from, your childhood. It can be anything you want. It's basically just in the moment now. People have been listening to us have a chat, listen to your views on stuff. And I want you to introduce the record that people are going to hear and tell them why you would like them to listen to it.
I would like you to listen to one of my old tunes. Well, it's not that old, and it came out on King Street, and it's called The Mac. And I was listening to a lot of US Garage when I wrote this song, and also the day that I wrote this song, a rapper called Craig Mack died, and that was the thing. And it's a proper garage tune, and I don't know how many people listen to it, so I kind of like, as a producer, you've got a couple of tunes that maybe people didn't pick up on, or maybe people did, your audience don't really like, but I was like, it's like a deep house garage banger, and I was like, yeah, that's cool.
Thank you. It's been amazing to chat to you. I hope that we bump into each other next year at ADE.
Yeah, 100%.
So thank you so much for taking the time to chat, and I'll see you again soon, man.
Nice. Big ups.